of the Always Believe House. We're about to have FUN, fun, because we're going to solve systems of equations by solving the equations for y, graphing them, and finding the intersection point. If that doesn't say fun, I don't know. So a magical whiteboard appears, and let's start rocking and rolling. Notice on this one right here, I kind of gave this to you first because this is solved for y, that's solved for y, this is solved for y. Most of these are solved for y. Okay? When you get to number 4, it's not solved for y. Remember, the x flips, the y goes on the bottom. The x flips, the y goes on the bottom. So on this one right here, we got to move the negative x, the x over, but the y, there's nothing in front of it, so we don't have to divide. So we're going to get y equal negative x plus 3. And this one will stay as y equal 2x. These are the two lines we'll graph, and we'll find the intersection point. Number 5, the x flips, and there's nothing in front of y, so it's just going to be y equal negative x. On the next one, the x flips, there's nothing in front of y, so it's going to be y equal negative 3x minus 4. This is what we'll graph, and we'll find the intersection point. All I'm doing is going through and solving them all for y now. On this one right here, the y's on the other side. So the 3 is going to flip, and the negative 3 goes on the bottom. That's kind of tricky. So it's going to be y equal, the x won't change, the 3 flips to minus 3, all over negative 3. So on this one, the negative 3 is going to flip, and the negative 3 is going to go on the bottom. On the next one, the x flips, and the y goes on the bottom. So we're going to get y equal negative x minus 6 all over 3. Remember, the x flips, the y goes on the bottom, unless the y is on the right-hand side. Number 7, the x flips, and the y goes on the bottom. So y equal negative x minus 4 all over 2. That's what we're going to punch in the calculator and graph. On the next one, the x is on the other side. All we got to do is divide by 4. So we're going to get y equal 3x plus 12 all over 4. That's what we'll graph. Number 8, that's easy because the y is solved for. That's going to be a flat line through negative 2. And then on this one, the x flips, the y goes on the bottom. So we're going to get y equals negative 2x plus 20 all over negative 5. Number 9, the x flips, the y goes on the bottom. So y equals negative 4x minus 15 all over 3. On the next one, this is solved for y. We don't have to do anything to it. Okay, so now you have all of the problems you could graph, okay? So you're going to graph all these problems, and I'm going to do number 2. Because there's no fractions, it'll be easy for me to do on the calculator, okay? So number 2, we're going to do, the answers obviously will be on the bottom. So your answers are on the bottom. Solve each system of equations by graphing. Cross out the box containing your answer. So when you finish, you're going to cross out your box. So we're going to graph negative 2x plus 1. So I'm going to go to graph, and then I'm going to hit tab, negative, hit tab, negative 2x plus 1, hit enter, I get that graph, and then I'm going to graph x minus 5. So tab, x minus 5, hit enter, I see my intersection point. If I can't see it, you got to zoom in and zoom out. Y'all should remember how to do that. Now then I'm going to hit menu, and I want to find the intersection point. So analyze graph, I want to get the intersection, you're going to hit the button to stop it, and then you're going to drag this line. So I'm going to stop right here, I'm going to drag over here, and right there, that black ordered pair is my intersection point. So the two lines cross at 2, negative 3. So I'm going to go to my paper, and I'm going to cross out 2, negative 3, which is, where's it at? 2, negative 3 is right here. So whatever left goes into the answer spot, and that's going to tell you what were the headlines after a mad scientist trained 2x to attack a candy star with sharp sticks. I don't know. You'll find out whenever you solve the problems, okay? And now we're going to go to the next worksheet. Same thing. You're going to solve the equations for y and graph them. So I'm going to solve these for y. You're going to graph and find the intersection points. There's 12 problems. Y'all can do this. So number 1 right here. The X goes across, and let me switch ink. The X goes across, the Y goes on the bottom. It may help if you draw the arrow and circle it. Whatever circle goes on the bottom, the arrow flips signs. So Y equal negative 5X plus 4 over negative 2. The X flips, there's nothing in front of Y. So we're going to get Y equal negative 3X plus 9. Continuing on, the X flips, the Y goes on the bottom. So Y equals negative 3X plus 13, and the negative 5 goes on the bottom. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom. Y equal negative X plus 5 all over negative 2. Going to number 7, the X flips, the Y goes on the bottom. So Y equal negative 7X minus 1 all over 2. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom. Y equals negative 3X plus 19 all over negative 4. Fun, fun, fun. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom. Y equal negative X plus 6 all over 2. Let me change this up here so it's easier to read. The next one, the X flips, the Y goes on the bottom over and over. Y equal negative 5X plus 2 all over 3. Make sure you're writing down the equations you're going to graph. Letter E, the X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 2X plus 7 over 3. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 3X plus 10 all over 4. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 7X minus 5 all over negative 3. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 3X plus 11 all over 2. 6 more. Fun, fun, fun. F-U-N, fun, fun, fun. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, so Y equals negative 3X plus 7 over negative 5. Same thing, the X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals negative 5X minus 1 over negative 2. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals negative 4X plus 9 over 3. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 3X plus 12 all over 4. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals negative 5X plus 16 over negative 3. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equal negative 4X minus 2 over 5. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals negative 4X minus 20 over negative 3. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals X plus 5 over negative 8. Y'all getting the hang of this? It's not that hard. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals 3X minus 1 over 7. The X flips, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals 2X. I'm not going to put the plus 0 over 5. There's no need to put the plus 0 on that one. And the next one, the X flips, the last one, the Y goes on the bottom, Y equals negative 5X minus 11 over 6. This one, the X flips, there's nothing in front of Y. So Y equals negative 3X minus 4. So obviously you'll graph the equations and the answers are over here on the side. Solve each system of equations. And you're just going to graph them. Don't worry about the instructions. Find the solution and notice the word next to it. Write this word in the box containing to the letter. So whatever A is, you're going to write that word in these spots, okay? So, and you'll solve it. Did you hear about? So what did you hear about? Oh. Fun, fun, fun. So remember, you're going to graph all of these that we've just done. Find the intersection point. Y'all help each other find those intersection points. Should remember how to do it. Remember, you are amazing, you are created to do wonderful things, and you are awesome.